What's up, Zox fam? We're back with some more Etheria Restart. Now, this is really massive because we have the characters finally in-game after the patch went through. Keep in mind, the Asia servers usually get the character in-game to summon first, but we all get the character accessible in the archive, and I want to take a look at this because this is going to be telling us what the investment level is going to be potentially on the character, and I think I was kind of right? So we're going to go ahead and dive right into Liliam first, and then we'll be taking a look at Nell. So with Liliam, if we go and we take a look at the skill 1 Thunderclap, so Liliam channels lightning to deal 260% damage to a single enemy and recovers HP equal to 60% of damage dealt. Flash is the passive, which Liliam actually becomes immune to all control and turn meter effects. Now, this is a very obvious answer. Should I skill this skill all the way? Yes, you have no choice, because if you want that immunity to all turn meter effects, you are going to need that, right? Like, that's the only way you'll be able to actually get that. Now, the thing I will say though is that you might be able to go without it because it says it also grants immunity to all turn meter effects, but innately she's going to be coming with the immune to all control effects. I think that that's like kind of like that super min-maxy thing, but considering that the biggest thing isn't so much just the control effect, but it's that things also come with pushback, I feel like that's something you're absolutely going to want, if especially you're trying to use this character. And I'm going to say this, right? Because I think there's some player that's playing with this mentality. Like, I'm just going to play this character in PvP. Dude, if you get a character on your account in the current state and the current situation that you might be in, you are going to want characters that you can definitely utilize in as much content as you possibly can. If especially I'm putting 12 lattices into them. So I don't care what you guys are talking about with that nonsense, but you are literally going to want this character to do more than just that one piece of content, right? So yeah, that turn meter effect is going to be huge, because the other thing is too, we have to remember the attribute of this character, which is disorder, which gives her basically generalized neutrality, right? So then we have the skill 2, which is Resounding Thunder. So time to get serious. Liliam deals 2 hits of 180% damage to a single enemy. For every 1% HP the target has lost, the final damage increases by 1%, guaranteed to inflict 1 turn of stun, and on the targets with less than 70% HP. It also has a turn to stun all enemies if the target is defeated. Now, the thing with this is that on level 3, you get the increase the HP trigger rate of applying stun to 70%. That obviously is going to be pretty massive, so that you can be a little bit more consistent with that, but of course the goal is to ultimately defeat those targets. I would say, like, this is another skill kind of screaming I need full investment, because if you really want to get the maximized value out of the skill, then there's kind of that, right? Like, so that you can basically take advantage of that final damage, because I think like the base hit itself isn't going to necessarily kill. It's going to be that for every 1% HP the target has lost, the final damage increase increment is going to be what helps you secure the kill. So again, with that being at that full 1%, anything less than that, I will say that, like, we've kind of already seen firsthand, which is the reason why I think they went and buffed Ramoka, what anything less than 1% looks like on a final damage increase, and it doesn't actually kill certain things. So yeah, that 1% I think is like the sweet spot for that to make sense. So it's the 1-to-1 ratio, and I think that that's ultimately going to be required. So that it's looking full investment already, right? Now, the very last skill, which is a flashing lightning. So no one or none can escape the lightning. Liliam gains 2 turns of attack up and speed up, and deals 500% damage to a single enemy, increasing the final damage by 50% on targets with more than 60% HP. This hit ignores shields and will seal the target's max HP equal to 50% of the damage dealt. Right now, with this, I will say firsthand, and there's a couple of things I'm going to talk about here. HP seal, so it seals an equal amount of maximum HP, cannot be dispelled, but has no effect on the boss. They wrote that in. A lot of us thought that maybe this might be something we could use on bosses. They said absolutely not, because that would be broken. I'm not gonna lie. If you could use the HP seal on bosses, that would just be bonkers. So they already have like answered that, right? So return to sender. Now the thing is though, is that she has like 500% damage multiplier, and then with the increasing of the damage by 50% on targets with 60% HP, right? Which a lot of the times that's going to be the case, especially if she's starting out with that, right? So if you set her up properly, she's going to be hitting pretty hard. Now, the thing is that I want to kind of talk about like shell combinations, right? Like she can self-heal, self-sustain herself. But we have like, obviously like things like, the revelation proc, I think is going to be pretty big for her, because that's going to be allowing you to have that extra HP damage come in. And I think that like a lot of us have just been looking at this on just multi-hitters, but like for characters like her, who's able to do such high amounts of damage, any excess or extra damage is going to be critical for her to be effective. And even when I was thinking about like other alternatives, like, in terms of shells, the only one that really seemed to kind of make sense would be like things like Jackal Guard, or if you want to go White Fang, because I think like Count, for example, it is basically a raw attack increase. It could work, but again, she does heal herself already. So I was just kind of like, we kind of want to lean more into something that like she's not really getting or doing, but again, that also could still be used on her. So it's not necessarily like a terrible choice, but I definitely would say that Revelation seems to make a lot of sense on her, considering that she's able to do such high, vast amounts of damage. And even when we're like directly comparing, like I know a lot of people mentioned Hoyan. Hoyan has a 450% multiplier, and this is also with her having to consume her HP, and then on top of that, for every 10% self max HP loss, it increases damage dealt by this attack by 10%, which if we're being real, like at that 50% marker, it will put her at that 500%, but that's with her taking her own HP. And then if you want that to scale more, you basically have to proc her death mechanic, which is going to make her go into like the soul ward effect and stuff like that. She does have the fleeting glance though, which does give her like crazy amounts of value when we're talking about the overall scaling. But I think that like the trade-off with a character like Liliam is that she's not actually hurting herself, so she can take a hit, right? And the thing is that because she can ignore shields and she seals the target's max HP, if she's able to use this more than once, which is going to be kind of a problem if she does, she's going to be actually dealing a lot of damage to a target, especially if they're over that marker. Now, the thing is though, which I think is quite interesting with this character, is also too, and I want to mention this real quick before I forget it. The other thing is too, with the skill, it needs to be maxed, right? And this is simply because, especially if you're going for the Revelation build, it will be off sync if it's not maxed, because Revelation is on a 3-turn cooldown. So in order for you to have that be synced together, you have to have this skilled up. So when we're looking at all the skills, if we're being 100% honest, this is going to be a full invest character, right? Like if you really want this character to work, and I don't think this is like a surprise. It's just that now we can actually see it and we know, again, what we're actually getting into. I would say for those that want this character to be fully operable, and not even just the sense of like, what all characters require, which is to be invested in fully at some point. But I feel like really for this character to do her job in the way that she needs to be invested in, because to be honest, it actually covers certain things that you would normally not be able to deal with. Like for example, if she's immune to all control effects, but not immune to turn meter, she still would be getting ooga booga'd by characters that have pushback. Can't stun her, but they're still gonna push her back to oblivion, right? So she could still get hit by a Kachi, or I mean, that's just random, like, but like definitely that's definitely a little random, but definitely characters like Marvels, or still being able to be hit by like the Mios, for example, because you have to remember there's other units that can CC and then also have forms of pushback or distribute. You have the Kloss setup, so you have like there's tons of characters that would still be able to counteract her, but if you have that skill up investment, that's going to make it so much harder for you to deal with her when it comes down to turn meter stuff, because it doesn't actually work. She actually would directly be countering characters as well, like Freya, because what she'll nullify is the aspect of Freya's kit where she gets pushback from debuffing, right? Because she's immune to any of the turn meter effects. So that's something that I think that is like really like insane about this character, is that she's actually coming into play at such an interesting time in the meta. and is able to counteract some of the strongest units in the game. Now, of course, with that too, the final damage boost, I mean, again, that's damage. And then, like I said, with this very, very last one, it's like, dude, you want that to be in sync if you're going to be going Revelation. If not, even then, I still think you want that multiplier to be as high as possible so you can hit as hard as possible, right? Like, I think that that's kind of like even the same thing with like Shadow with Hoyan. Like, you're just not going to use her as is. Like, you have to put skill up investment in her. Now, do I think that there's a bare minimum or like a skill you should target first with this character? Man, I think it all depends on like what you're doing, to be honest, and what you can realistically get away with in the specific dungeon. But I like, honestly, it's like usually I try to go damage first, like things like this. For example, like if she goes skill 3, that with the HP seal, I think can be quite impactful with the cooldown reduction. But ultimately, you're still going to be dealing with things like the turn meter effects. If you're using her in Doki, if you're going Terramatan, then she's still going to have to deal with, pushback. There's still those things, but if you can manage that, I think skill 3 would definitely be pretty huge. Skill 2, I think, is pretty massive as well if you're going Doki Doki, and then skill 1. But again, I think it just really all depends, because if you're going PvP, then it actually would still be full send. I don't see why this wouldn't be a full send character. I'm trying to justify it for somebody, but I just don't see it not being a full send character. So that's just that. But either way, that kind of answers that question. Now we're going to actually take a look at Nell, because Nell is the other character that's coming into the game, and for all of us that are on the global servers, we'll have access to her tomorrow, or at reset, I should say. And with what she's bringing to the table, okay, skill 1 deals 240% damage to a single enemy with 40% chance to inflict 2 turns of vulnerability. Seems about right? Like, again, with her having enough effect accuracy, she's going to be at about that 80% marker, which is pretty good. I'm not gonna lie, that's actually pretty reliable, actually. And that's increasing damage taken by 30%. Skill 2 is going to be Shadows Under the Sun often hides unspeakable secrets. Nell attacks an enemy 4 times, dealing 70% damage each time, and healing the ally with the highest attack for 12% of their max HP, while increasing their turn meter by 20%. Now, this is for each hit, okay? Now, the thing is, that's actually kind of, that's like, what, guaranteed turn? If that procs exactly how I'm reading that, if that's like 4 turns, right? Yeah, that's like 80%, which, I mean, that's like basically almost guaranteed to give you your turn. And then the other thing is too, is that with that extra heal, and it's based off of their max HP though. So you're not really caring so much about her HP for that value. It's definitely going to be their HP, which is a little bit more Ling Low vibe there, but that still works. And the thing is that I could even see her working on shells like, for example, and let me see, you could technically use something like that, but I think you would probably want to use her as something that allows her to rotate so she can actually go more. But then we have the Scorching Sun. I'm gonna come back to that thought though. So the sunlight can be blinding flames. Nell deals 250% damage to all enemies with an 80% chance to apply vulnerability for 2 turns, and then applies a speed up to all allies for 3 turns. So with her stats, her damage seems pretty standard, right, for a support. 80% chance, 40% chance, which with the potential doubling, that's going to cap at the 90%. She has some pretty fair chances to land her debuffs, right? Like, I think really outside of that, you're looking at that skill 2 for the extra healing and the turn meter push, which is really going to be her bread and butter, outside of the vulnerability proc, because outside of that, like, everything else is pretty yeah, everything else about the skill is like pretty standard, but okay. The other thing is too though, is she offers a speed up buff. So I think the thing is that like with characters like this, and what they've really been emphasizing is like having more characters that can help you out with rotations. Because to be honest, like even when we're looking at like a lot of content, speed down, like it's just kind of like the relationship that we have in a lot of content that we have to deal with. In terms of the overall investment for this character though, do you have to go super all the way to get her to work? I would say, like, for sure, I would want a skill like her Sunshade at 3 costs. Like I wouldn't want that to be at 4 if I could help it, just so that you can use that more often. That's just gonna always be beneficial. Getting this down to a 3-turn cooldown as well is just more vulnerability procs. And to be quite honest, like if you can get this off a lot more and you have this at 3-turn rotation, I would actually say that this is a full investment skill. For the skill 3, if it's a 3-turn duration on the 3-turn cooldown, I mean, that should kind of tell you everything right there, because that means by the time you actually get this, like, or by the time the buff goes away, the skill is already usable again to reproc it. And that's something that's going to be pretty huge, because even with the vulnerability being on 2 turns, you do have the ability to proc it in the S1. But yeah, that speed up, being able to reapply that and it just lasts the full duration is kind of insane, especially for those that are lacking something like a speed up buff. Now, the other thing is too, though, is looking at the skill 1, it increases the duration of vulnerability to 2 turns. Things like that, like I don't think a lot of people actually realize do matter, because I've noticed that like some characters, like, or some setups, like if something lasts for a turn, but then like something out rotates you and you're not able to get that turn, then now the skill is gone. Like, right, like that can happen a lot in like Terramatan, because Terramatan can be rotated, but when he gets rotated, that actually counts as a turn for him, right? Like when his little like force pushes him, that's a turn, right? So you could have something on him for 1 turn and be about to get your turn, but something happens where now he's getting pushed, and then now you don't have that damage amp. So I think that this is another character you're investing in, right? Like I just, again, for what it's worth, she has really good skills. So I don't see this being like a bad investment choice or anything like that. I think the other thing is too, and I want to check something, her speed is in her skill 1, which is another thing. And I want to check Liliam's speed as well. Her speed is, let's see, is this skill 3? Oh, it's actually skill 3. So that's actually going to be that. And that's what I was kind of saying, like when I was trying to justify what skill you go for first, that actually does kind of put the icing on top of the cake. You're going to want the speed, like for sure, because she's actually not slow. She's at 125, which is like pretty good base speed to have on a character like this. And like I said, even for some of her like comparing characters, like, right, like Hoyan is 120, right? And then I think like with the extra 15, oh my god, yeah, she's actually not slow. Yeah, because Mio's 126, like she's not slow. What's Lily? 127. She's not a slow character at all. Yeah, she's not a slow character at all. And I think it's also too because she's supposed to hit into high HP values too, so she's actually a pretty fast character. So I mean, to be honest, this is gonna be interesting to see, man. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Like I said, I feel like these are going to be full send characters. I don't see you really skimming out on the investment. I mean, maybe with Nell a little bit, but Liliam, I definitely think she's 100% full investment. Is it going to be worth though, is really the question. I think there is some testing that still needs to be done, but for what it looks like on paper, this does seem to be extremely high potent and just really valuable. Is it going to be like Yelly level? Possibly, but again, I can't really tell you guys too much. I'm not going to give you an indefinite pull or not pull until I actually am able to do some testing or till more information comes out, because I know, like, again, Asia server has access to the characters now, but again, I'm still going to see what I can do for you guys with as much or as least investment as possible to maybe get her to work. But that's just my thoughts and opinions. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Everyone, stay blessed, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.